he and his wife have essentially made their living in portrait photography for their whole lives. Jack's a unique person in that after the day was done, he continued with a different type of photography, and I'd always admired that about photographers, because to get me to talk about automobiles after 5 o'clock is so, Jack?
Well, I guess that's what kept me sane. I love doing portraits. And I was thinking some years ago, and I realized that I had never made any money at all since I got out of the service that didn't involve a camera. So I've been doing this for 60-some years. And luckily, my wife loves the smell of fixer.
You give me a fix.
And my kids growing up just think that's the way the world smells. So, you know, they're kind of born into it, and they don't know any difference. So, I do a lot of digital work. My portrait work now, since digital came out, I gave digital about 6 or 7 years before I switched to it. And the reason I did, I found out that the clients nowadays don't know the difference, so why go through all that if they don't appreciate it? So all of my portrait work now, unless somebody specifies film, is all done digitally. And I still do my own printing. All my life I did all my own printing. For clients and for myself, so.
Tell them what I gave you for our anniversary, actually, but.
5x7 Deerdorf.
No, what I gave you.
Oh, yeah, this kind of changed my life. For our 25th anniversary, she sent me out to study in Yosemite with John Sexton, Bruce Barnbaum, and Ray McSavany.
But it was supposed to be answered.
Yeah, that's true. I was scheduled for Nance Adams' workshop, but he died. No way.
That's the Owens Valley workshop?
Yes. So instead I went to the Owens Valley group in Yosemite. And it changed my whole way of thinking about photography. Not so much the portrait work, but just the control you have in black and white with the zone system and everything. And I just took that and kind of ran with it. And the nudes I do are pretty much part of the portrait part of our business. Over the years, we've had people actually come in and ask us as a client to do this type of for them. Not that much. I wish there were more, but it's always been fun. If anybody has any questions, just ask, because I have no
Is the
fixed
woman
fee.
that came in there?
No.
Tell that story.
I got a call one day, and this woman asked for me on the phone, which doesn't happen because she's always been the talker. So she just talks without thinking. So.
A good thing.
So she said, you know, I've seen your work. Strangely enough, I had an exhibit at a church, and I had some nudes. She said, I saw your exhibit at First Church, and I really liked your nudes, and I'd like to have that done of me for my husband for our anniversary. But she said, I just have to tell you one thing. I'm 65 years old, and I've always taken very good care of myself, but I know one of these days everything's just going to go. And I want to have this done before it does. So she came in. From the waist up, she had the figure of a 25-year-old. Didn't look too bad. So after the fact, I delivered them, and she gave them to her husband, and she called back and says, my husband loved them. So, yeah.
When you do your portraits, or even maybe it's saying do you have a lot? Do you talk with them beforehand so that it's, or do you just bring them in the room?
No, she talks beforehand. Yeah. I talk very little if I can help it. But
The one over there with the first large thing around, somebody came to us and said, does that young girl's mother know that you're taking a picture of her? I said, The young girl's mother is on one side, and I'm on the other in case she falls.
They were pushing her back and forth in front of the camera composition. And when they passed through the viewfinder, I took a shot. And that pose, she's trying to keep her balance.
Wow.
Because we had her legs wrapped pretty tight, and she couldn't really separate them to catch her balance. So she just kept tipping over, and they'd shove her through. And it was interesting. I got this shot, which I liked very much.
How much do you feel that your figure work influenced your natural work? Because I'm just looking at of the mountain and how it's like there's a couple of images over here that I see in that one, and then I also see like some of the forms in the trees and whatnot, very similarly.
When I get into it from the camera, I think of the body as a landscape, so I try to look for the shapes and the hills and the valleys and shadow and light. And I was going to do a project once where I superimposed the nudes into the landscape, like the sand dunes at shots, and I had some nice nudes that would just really blend with them. I had no time. Maybe when I get older, I'll do that. Like Susan, I used to like to do a lot of moving water shots. But since I got older, every time I try them, I have to pee. So I kind of cut that out.
Jack, the snow scene there, is that the April 1st storm that one year in Forest Park?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a prime example of the zone system. It was very interesting. And that's a very easy negative to print. I printed it not too long ago, and it's still, you know, almost no dodging and burning. All the tones are there. The shots, the two 717s. Steve and I were out there. We know why it's called the rainforest.
Doesn't stop raining.
Yeah.
I'm from Washington State.
I had the 717 camera. I had 3 holders. So that's 6 sheets. 3 of them, I got them in the camera, made the exposure, couldn't get the slide back in.
It was too wet?
It's so wet.
The film just warped to the point where the slide was going in behind the film. So out of 6 sheets, I got 3 shots,
Push the film
and
right
all
out.
3 shots I used. So now I tend to tape the ends of the 717 so they don't warp. So you learn, but the hard part was carrying. You ever try carrying 717 sheets of film that's wet? It's like picking up a paper that's been soaked in oil. I really had to fold them up and, you know, put them somewhere where they just wouldn't slip out of my hands. I didn't want to leave them up there, and I didn't want to bury them, so I carried them back. It was interesting. We've had some good times. But this is Steve's family. This is the kind of work I did. I've worked a lot in black and white. I started in the business when everything was black and white. They had color slides, but they had no color negatives. And I saw the color negative phase come in, and all the photographers I knew, and I knew a lot over the years, they all switched to color. Because the sales point in, the people that started the first color lab in the country, I think it was A&R Color in Rochester, New York. They came to studios and they said, here, take this roll of color film, put it in your camera, shoot it exactly the same way you would the black and white. It was 100 ASA at the time. Say, take it out of the camera, send it to us. We'll send you back a series of proofs. And that was it. They started showing, studios started showing them, and the whole industry switched to color when negatives came out. And being a stubborn person, I did color, but I still kept doing black and white and film. I'm still waiting for this digital fad to end. I've got cameras and Hasselblads. But anyway,
Jack, did you know Philip Cheris by any chance?
I did.
Oh,
I couldn't say I knew him, I met him a few times.
Oh.
Yeah, I admired his work. A lot of my color work
A
was,
friend of mine before he passed.
yeah, was kind of geared to what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's water.
Okay.
This was funny. This girl at the time was maybe 16 and a half, 17. And her mother was a photographer that we've known for years. And she said, you know, my daughter at this age has a very good figure and I'd like you to photograph her. She said, I tried, but she's my daughter, so she doesn't listen to anything. But this gal was noted for her props. She never did a picture that didn't have any kind of prop in it. So she kept trying to prop the whole thing, and I said, you know, just let me do it. So she had at least let me spray her. So I said, okay, spray her.
She bought the spray?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know,
This year's study.
Oh, was it?
So, Jack, talking about props, did you always, at some point, use cloth or some sort
I
of
just used to say.
additional material, or did you sort of migrate from nothing to do that?
no, I always used material. You know, this is an old antique wedding gown. This is just a piece of, is it tulle?
Tooling, yeah.
Tulle, with a big fan on it. A flower. Linda liked it, was just a nightgown braid. No, I do one shot that I use black tulle and I soak it in water and have somebody hold it up at both ends and just have the vibe kind of walk into it. Very nice effect. Yeah. Real clingy. Plus, the water on the fabric makes some strange patterns. Really neat.
That's a good deal.
I thought I might have one of those here, but it wasn't. What I did after Steve called, we had a nurse coming in today to go over all the prescriptions with me. And she didn't leave until after 12. So I
Telling
grabbed,
me to stay on.
so I grabbed two cases, the black portfolio case for these, and another case that had the black and white landscapes in it. We just took off after the nurse stuff, so. That's what you see here.
Exquisite.
It's been, you know, it's been a good life. We've been married 62 years. To my first wife. So if anybody has any more questions, please, if not, come through.
Where is this rainforest?
The Washington, Olympic Peninsula, in Washington State. H.O. The Ho.
HOH.
Is it?
HOH.
Okay.
You're ready for water.
Well, I'll tell a couple stories. I've been traveling with you since, I don't know, probably 85. And so think of the rabbit and the hare. I'm the young guy that's all full of testosterone. You know, the plane lands in the Southwest, and the camera's out, and I'm ready to go. And so we would go to these places, and Jack, you don't want to make a photograph? No, I want to get acclimated. I'll take a day or so to get acclimated. And we're only there 6 or 7 days. Okay. But invariably, he would come back with images that were probably more meaningful than the young buck.
Well, when you spend all the days before a trip like that doing portraits of families and weddings and bar mitzvahs, it took me a day to really. So, yeah.
You know, that little comment about, you know, you used to like to take running water, but then make them pee. Those are now called Jackisms. I remember he comes out with this dry humor. I remember climbing the dunes in Death Valley the first time, and so climbing the dunes, and the feet are giving way to the sand. You got 30, 40 pounds on the back. I'm in front because I'm the rabbit, and I turn around and I say, "Man, these dunes are great, huh?" Jack says, "Yeah, it's too bad they put so much sand around."
Tell them about when you check into a motel.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, most times we had to load film, you know, at night. And so, you know, 2 grown men would go into a hotel or a motel, usually the least expensive. Do your bathrooms have windows? That's pretty strange.
You know, the next time you went, the guy remembered you.
Oh, well. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm glad. I've seen some great work.
Yep.